Awesome. All right. Thank you all for being here. Happy Tuesday. Good to see you. Just a reminder, last couple days to register today, and last chance, I believe, is tomorrow, the 27th. So make sure you get yourself registered. Probably won't go through the process of actually verifying everything until probably the end of February. Once they get everything all figured out, then we figure out who's teaching what, and then we try to figure out sections. And so it always takes a while to get everything confirmed. So patience on schedules for next year if you have that coming up. So today what I wanted to do was just kind of practice with what we started with yesterday. I want to run through a few of them just so that you can kind of see them in action, and then you'll try a couple on your own. And then we'll be good to go. So quadratic formula only. I left these up here from yesterday so that you have something to look at in case you need that, or maybe you missed yesterday and you need to copy down some formulas. I'm always going to use this bottom one here, okay? And there's going to be a point today where we see that sometimes it works out really nicely with the square root being perfect, and we'll keep going and we'll get some real numbers. And sometimes the square root won't be nice. It'll be square root of 7 or 11 or something that doesn't go in perfectly. And we'll just leave it like that for now. And tomorrow will be the day where I show you how some of those not so nice square roots can be simplified a little bit more. Still not going to be perfect. We'll still have a square root left when we're done. The number inside will just be a little bit smaller. So kind of like a little side lesson on how to simplify radicals. That'll come tomorrow. Today, I just want to make sure that we practice this. I have a feeling that once you get the hang of it, it shouldn't be too much trouble to get these done. So you'll see that there's a classwork 2.6a that I dropped on Canvas as an assignment. So go ahead and open those up. You can work on them on your own. You don't have to wait for me to run through all 5 of them. You can do all 5 on your own. I'm going to do the first 3 together just so you can see what happens. So if you want to just get to it and knock it out, and once you submit your work for today, you can go. You don't have to wait for me to work my way through all 3. You might be able to work faster than that through all 5. And then if you have questions on 4 and 5, I'm certainly happy to help. But I want to have all 3 of those first 3 done with you, so you can just get a little reminder of what we looked at yesterday, see what happens when it works out nicely, when it doesn't work out nicely, how to simplify certain things. I'm always going to use this bottom one. It'll help us simplify. And you'll see that tomorrow, after we learn how to deal with some of the not so nice radicals that can be simplified a little bit further, how nicely that will kind of play into why I'm using this one, so we can work on simplifying that fraction. Okay, so I'm just going to knock these first 3 out. I will hang out for any questions through number 4 and 5. And when your work is submitted, you are free to go. Okay, I'm working on getting some grades caught up on Canvas for some of those last homework assignments as well. So if you're missing some stuff, make sure you try to get that in sooner rather than later. The sooner you get stuff to me, the more points you're going to get back. The later it is, the fewer things you get back. Okay, so go through that. If you have questions on grades, if I miss something, I still have a missing in there for something you did submit, let me know. I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes, and I want to make sure you get the best grade you possibly can. So keep me in the loop with stuff like that. Okay. All right. Without further ado, let's do it. I am going to try to work my way through these first 3 relatively quickly and get you out of here a little bit early, and then we'll pick some stuff up tomorrow, and we'll just kind of go from there. Okay. So I am on that classwork 2.6a, kind of the first time we're going to do these out and submit them to see how things are going. Okay, and I'm just going to use the fact that A, B, and C are just numbers. I'm going to plug them into here. I'm going to simplify the top, simplify the bottom, simplify what's under the square root, and then see if I can do something with that, and then simplify the bottom. If I keep going, I will. If I'm stuck, then I'll stop. And you're going to see how that all kind of works out, right? So start with number 1. Again, if you have got the hang of it, mute me. Do your thing. You don't have to listen, okay? But if you want to see them in action, at least stick with these first couple with me. The first one's not going to work out nice. The second one will. The third one, I tried to just get an A value bigger than 1 so you can see what happens there. We're just plugging A, right? It's just numbers, okay? So x squared plus 4x minus 1. And away I go. Okay, I'm not going to rewrite the formula. It's right here, but I am going to plug in all of those numbers. And so I'm going to write down what A equals, what B equals, and what C equals, just for good measure, because we seem to be using them over and over again. So I like to write them down. Okay. All right. X equals negative B, so negative 4, over 2 times A plus or minus the square root of, kind of a big long square root here because I got a lot of stuff underneath, in parentheses the 4 with the square root on the outside. The reason I don't put this first negative 4, right, I don't put the 4 inside parentheses, there's nothing else attached to it besides the negative up top, so I know I'm good there. Everything else though, anytime I drop in a number, I will make sure I use parentheses. All right, so A, 1, so I drop that in parentheses. C is negative 1, so I want to make sure I keep track of that. The square root only goes on top, so don't let that square root kind of dip down into the bottom of that fraction. It's just a square root on top, right? Same thing right here. And you, of course, use this version if you want, but realize that I think this one's going to help us later on. So that's what I'm always going to stick with. And then 2 times A on the bottom. Okay, stop me if you have questions as we go. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of talk through these first 3 and copy it down as you go. All right, so simplify the top. Done, negative 4, nothing else I can do. Simplify the bottom, 2 times 1. That's 2. And I'll deal with that fraction next, okay? Now, the square root part, I'm going to leave for now. I'm actually going to make it a whole bunch shorter because I'm going to drop this whole thing all into my calculator, all in one shot, and see what I get. Because if it's nice, cool, then I'll use it. And if it's not nice, I'm going to end up leaving it. So I want to kind of do like 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 1 and see what happens and see what I get. And if you plug all of that in your calculator, you'd see you would get 20. Okay. And then, of course, on the bottom, 2 times 1 is still 2. Okay. And then I just simplify each fraction separately. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And then plus or minus, and I just kind of think about the square root of 20. And I plug that in my calculator. So remember, when we're doing this kind of this red step, I don't actually type the square root part in because it'll just give me the decimal if it's not a nice answer. And then I have to go back and I have to plug in the bottom part, what's underneath here separately. So I'm kind of like doing twice the work if my answer doesn't work out nicely, which is usually what's going to happen, right? We're not always going to run into really nice numbers. And that's what the square root of 20 is, right? It's this 4 point blah, 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 some long number that I can't use. And so for today, we're just going to leave that as the square root of 20 over 2. Okay, you'll see tomorrow that numbers like this, the square root of 20, I can actually make that look a little bit nicer. It's still going to be irrational, right? It's still not going to be perfect, but I can make it simpler with the hopes that I can maybe get rid of this fraction part. And we will, and I'll show you what that looks like tomorrow. We'll kind of do like a separate side mini lesson on simplifying radicals now that we're finally at this point where we're starting to get a little bit more comfortable with it. There it is. Plug in your numbers, simplify each part separately, and then start simplifying the whole of everything, right? Simplify the whole first fraction, the whole second fraction. Nothing we can do here though, right? Because the 20 is on the inside, 2 is on the outside. So nothing we can do right there. Cool. There you go. That's all there is to it. Okay. When the numbers work out so that the square root is irrational, that's all we're going to do for today. Okay, we'll add a little piece to it tomorrow, I guess. No, but there's number 1. It's done. Okay. Now that we've kind of got the hang of all of it, hopefully these next couple work out just as nicely. And I know that's not perfect with the square root of 20. Number 2 should work out even better. Okay. And what you'll see with that nicer version where the square root is perfect, we can go a step further and actually add whatever we get and subtract whatever we get and get our 2 separate answers, 2 perfect, nice whole numbers. Okay. So hopefully that was enough vamping so that you could finish writing stuff down if you were following along. I'm going to slide us over to some empty space, and I'm going to knock out both 2 and 3 over here so you can see it, and then try 4 and 5 on your own. Okay. So I'll start over here on the left. Let me make sure you guys can see me all right. Scoot this over a little bit. There we go, something like that. Okay. 2.6a. Awesome. All right, number 2. And I hope this helps. I hope like watching me do this is working for you. If it doesn't, and you need something else, you gotta let me know. All right, I'm just kind of doing the best that I can, trying to teach you guys from a distance and giving you some guidance. So let me know what works. Let me know what doesn't. X squared minus 2x minus 15. Okay. And so I kind of like to come on the side. A is 1, B is negative 2, C is negative 15. I know it might be up in glare a little bit there, but pretty self-explanatory beginning to all this. And then I just jump in. X equals. All right. I don't have the formula in view, but it is right over there. Hopefully you have it written down somewhere, so you don't have to have it necessarily memorized just yet, but being able to just drop in the correct numbers in the right spots. Again, I'm going to use that second version with the 2 separate fractions. It's going to make this one definitely work out really nicely for me. All right, so negative b goes first. It's already negative, though, so I got to switch that sign so it becomes positive 2 on top. And then 2 times 1 for the bottom. 2a, right? Negative b over 2a. And then plus or minus, okay, cool, big old square root, nice. Give myself lots of space to make sure it all gets stuck underneath. Okay, b in parentheses squared, had to put the parentheses around it because it had something attached to it. Minus 4 times a times c, the 1 and the negative 15 also in parentheses because they're all attached. Don't forget that negative going to be really big for us. We make sure we get the right number underneath there. And then your denominators are always going to be the same because they're both over 2a, right? Whether you have one big fraction or the 2 separate ones, the denominator is always just 2a. Cool. And then I just deal with each of the 4 sections separately. Top left, top right, bottom right. My 2 fractions. Top thing, I don't have to, it's just 2, cool. And then 2 times 1 on the bottom, also 2. So eventually I'll simplify that, but that'll be the next step. This step, I just try to make each little piece as simple as I can. So it was a big long fraction, big long square root, but now I'm going to put all of that stuff into my calculator and see what I get. See if I get a nice number that I can actually take the square root of, or something not nice, and I'll just leave it. So I plug that whole thing in my calculator. Take some time to do that. Parentheses, negative 2 parentheses squared. Minus 4 times 1 times negative 15. If you're doing it in your phone's calculator, you're probably going to want to turn your phone sideways so you can get the parentheses to show up nicely, so you get the exponents, all that kind of stuff. And what you'd see if you plugged all of that in all in one shot is you get 64. That'll be under your square root still. Okay. Now, I see if that square root is nice. If it is, that's the only thing I'm going to do in this step. If it's not, then I'll just simplify everything as best I can. Okay, so for the time being, I'm going to leave this 2 over 2 for a second, and I'm going to plug the square root of 64 in. Or I'm just going to think about it. I'm going to ask myself, all right, what number squared is 64? Because that's really what a square root is asking you. So like, what number times itself, because it's a square root, so times one number times itself, give me the same number twice, is 64. Now, with the square root of 20, there was no really nice number to do that. But with the square root of 64, there is. And that number is 8, right? 8 times 8 is 64. You don't have to have those memorized, but it is kind of nice to know your first handful or 2 of those perfect squares. Okay, so all I did is the square root of 64, call it 8. Now I will simplify the first fraction. 2 over 2 is 1. Simplify the second fraction, 8 over 2 is 4. And since I have really nice rational numbers now only, now I can actually put them together. And that's what the plus or minus does. Remember yesterday we saw that when we have those perfect squares underneath those square roots, now I just end up with nice stuff and I can go from there.
Hey, Rosie.
Yeah, question.
Are you able to move the screen a little to the left?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. So cool. So plug all my numbers in, see what I get. Simplify top and bottom, top and bottom. And then from here to here, I just check that nice square root. Okay, if it's nice like it is, perfect. I'm gonna drop the square root, change the number to right at whatever the square root of 64 is, or the square root of 25, or square root of 100, whatever it is. Now simplify each fraction separately. And because these are nice numbers that I can put together, I think about them separately. And I'm going to take kind of two separate paths. And I don't care how you organize it. I just kind of like to have two arrows kind of coming out this way, where I'm going to do 1 plus 4, see what I get, and 1 minus 4. See what I get? That's what plus or minus means, right? Pick a plus one time, pick a minus the other, and see what you get. 1 plus 4 is 5, 1 minus 4 is -3. And those are our exact x-intercepts. They all worked out really, really nicely. Which means that from the beginning, this thing was factorable, right? And if given the choice, I would certainly factor, although this works out really nicely if you don't mind kind of sticking with the formula, plugging stuff in, and seeing it all work out really well, okay? Factoring is a nice skill to have, but if the plan is just to find the x-intercepts, you now have 3 choices, right? You can factor if it's factorable, and we'll work our way back to that to practice with that as we review for whatever kind of quadratic test we'll have coming up here in the next couple weeks. You can vertex form it, right, because that works. That's probably the most work, right? Negative b over 2a, plug it in, everything that goes there. And then quadratic formula, super, super nice. Okay, so there is one where it didn't work nicely. Here's one where it did. Okay, and I just wanted to try one more with you just to show you how to deal with, you know, a values that are different than 1, and okay, what if I have decimals, whatever the case may be. Kind of puts it all together with number 3, and then you can try those last 2 on your own, and you'll submit all 5 of these to me so I can show, kind of see your work and make sure that you're doing all the good things that need to be done, okay? Quick pause for any questions. Anything you want me to talk through again? I'm trying to make it as easy for you to access all this stuff as possible. So hopefully the way I explain it is clicking for you. I know it's tough from a distance, so I appreciate you guys just being here, listening, writing stuff down. It means a lot, really does. So. Okay, cool. I am going to, let's make sure, you can kind of see me. That should get you all the way over. Okay, number 3, we can start with a 2x squared this time. H of x, right? H of x is what they call this one, 2x squared. Another negative b, so we got to kind of keep an eye on that. Negative 2x squared minus 6x plus 1. And if you need to, a equals, b equals, and c equals, just to give you a kind of a better focus on just the numbers themselves. So a is 2, b is negative 6, and then c is positive 1. So kind of keeping track of those signs is going to be really helpful for me because I'm plugging in positives and negatives and squaring them and multiplying them all together and subtracting. There's a lot of stuff happening. So away we go. X equals.
Are we able to move the screen a little bit over when you get the chance again? Sorry.
This way?
No, the other way.
This way.
Yeah. Oh,
there
perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it. Perfect. All right, so 2 fractions. First one's negative b over 2a. And so b is already negative, so I got to make the switch, call it positive 6. And then on the bottom, I'll just put the 2 times 2 for now, and I'll worry about actually multiplying that later. Kind of like a step of substitution before we actually do any of the math. Big square root here for this second fraction. Or just a big square root on top of the 1 fraction if you're doing it the 1 way. That's cool too. Okay, parentheses everywhere. I drop in a number though. Negative 6 on the inside, squared on the outside under that square root, right? Negative 6 is b, so b squared. And then minus 4 times a. A is now 2, so I better put the 2 there. Times c. All of those all connected by multiplication. All right, 4 times a times c. All being multiplied all together. And then on the bottom, same thing that was on the bottom of the first fraction, just 2 times 2. Okay, and you can kind of see that like my equal sign is lined up with my 2 fraction bars, like the plus or minus is kind of right in the middle. I know that because we've got these big fractions, you might not squeeze it into one line on some lined paper. For me, when I was always doing this stuff by hand, I would use that line, like that blue line on my lined piece of paper as the middle. Like that's where my fraction bar would go, and I would use 2 lines. Otherwise, I would be writing really, really small, and that makes it a little bit harder for me to keep track of stuff. I would make mistakes. I would read numbers incorrectly or whatever it is. So, or I would lose points when my teacher misread it, and I would hate that. Right? So write it bigger. I don't care. Cool. Now we simplify. Top left, done, just a 6. Bottom left, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, hang on to that plus or minus because we'll add and subtract to see what we get. Now, I used to have a really big square root. Now it's a whole lot smaller because I'm just going to put all that stuff all together underneath. I let the calculator do it all for me, or I just do it in my head, or I can do it step by step, whatever you're comfortable with. But what you should get, 36 minus 8, you get 28. And we'll see what happens with that. We'll check that out. And of course, the denominator of the first fraction is going to be the same as the denominator of the second one. So that's over 4 as well. Okay. And what you'll see tomorrow is we'll look at the square root of 28 and see if there's something we can do with it. Because when we look at it today, I plug it in the calculator and it is no good, right? Some long decimal. 25 would have been perfect because that's square root of 25 is 5. 36 would have been perfect because the square root of that is 6, but this is 5 point something, and it kind of goes on forever. So, but I will show you tomorrow exactly. We're actually going to do number 1 and number 3 again, and I will just show you how to work with that square root. But for today, when I plug that in and I don't get anything nice, then that's what I've got, and that's okay. All right, so I will do 6 over 4 and see what I get. That's 1.5. Cool. I'll leave it like that. That's fine. Or you can call it 3 over 2. So I'll show you both versions. I don't really care which one you use. 3 over 2 is just fine. Just can't use 6 over 4 because it's not simplified. Plus or minus, plus or minus. So pick whichever one you want, decimals or fractions. And because that's not a perfect square, there's nothing I can do to make that any simpler. So pick one. Pick the top one or the bottom one. Pick this one. I guess I should do that. Or this one. Depends on which one you like. Do you like fractions a little bit? Do you like decimals? If you had to make a choice, pick whichever one you like. Now, the thing that's a little unappealing about this one is if you've got a decimal and a fraction as part of your answer, not great, but it's fine. I'm okay with that. Whatever you're comfortable with. Sweet. There we go. 20-ish minutes of me explaining how to do these 3. So hopefully that gives you enough to kind of knock out these last 2 by yourself. Okay. The first one, so number 4, will work out nicely like number 2. So I'm going to leave it up on this board so you can kind of say, okay, number 4 is going to be like this one. Number 5 will be more like this one. Okay. No decimals or fractions though, which is nice for that first part. So it'll actually be a little bit more like number 1. Okay. So time is yours. Go ahead and knock that out and stick around to do it. This way you're done. You don't have to worry about doing it later. You've got this time dedicated to math and you can still get out of here early if you feel like you've got a pretty good flow for how this stuff works. Now that we've done, gosh, that's 5 of them together now just in the last 2 days. So hopefully that is enough for you. So I will stop. I'm actually going to mute myself so you don't have to listen to me talk. Give you some peace and quiet. But if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. So unmute yourself and ask questions. Otherwise, knock out 4 and 5. This one will be like number 4. And number 1 or number 3 will be pretty similar to 5. Actually, a little bit more like number 1 because you don't have to worry about that different A value. Cool. There you go. Give them a shot. When you I muted myself early. When you're done, just let me know that you are headed out, and I will catch you tomorrow.
Hey, Rosie.
Hey.
I'm all finished. Do you just want me to head out?
Yeah, you can just upload your work to Canvas and you're good to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
All right, I'm done. I'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome. See ya.
I'm done. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
I'm done.
Bye,
Mr.
Rosie.
Messenger. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, see you tomorrow.
I'm not involved. Bye.
Done, Rosie. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. See ya.
Hey, Rosie, you said once we finish, we're good to leave, right?
Yep, good to go.
All right, sweet. I'll see you tomorrow.
See ya. Thanks.
Hey, Rosie, I'm done. Do we have practice still for baseball tonight?
We don't have anything at Pondo. We're not doing any outfield stuff, but yes, we are still at Marucci as far as I know.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
See you then.
See ya.
All right, Mr. Rizzi, have a good day.
See ya.
All right, I'm done.
Awesome. See ya. Thanks.
I just finished too.
All right. See you later, Ty.
Hey Rosie, I'm done. I just have a quick question for you. So with the registration, we like don't have to turn anything in, right? Like it just instantly uploads.
Yep.
All right, cool. Thank you. I'm done. I'm gonna just turn that in real fast.
Sounds good. Thanks, Scout.
Yeah, have a good day.
Yeah.
Hey, Rosie.
Yeah.
For number 4, I have pretty much the end part of it, but I'm not sure what to do next. Can I read it off to you?
Sure. Go ahead.
X equals 6/2 plus or minus the square root of 16 divided by 2.
Okay. So we want to check that square root and see if it's nice or if it's not nice. If we get some long decimal, then we'll just leave it as the square root of 16. But if we get an actual nice number, whether it's a whole number or a decimal that has an end, then we'll use it. So that's where I kind of just, if you don't know what it is off the top of your head, you just jump into your calculator, you type in the square root of 16 and see what it gives you. So what'd you get?
I know it would be 4 because 4 times 4 is 16, but I don't know what to do after that part.
Okay,
That's
cool.
what I was asking about.
So we're at, what was it, 6/2?
6/2 plus or minus the square root of 16/2.
So the square root of 16 is 4. So I'm going to rewrite just the top of that as 4.
Okay.
So I don't leave it as a square root of 16. I'm going to write it as 4 instead. Now I think it should be -6/2 because it's negative b over 2a.
Oh, yes.
Cool. So now that I actually have just two nice fractions, I'll just do them both separately. Like -6/2 is -3. And 4/2 is 2.
Okay. And then that's what we would circle.
Well, no, because now that these are actual numbers that I can add and subtract from each other, it's kind of like what we did here, where I split it apart into two possibilities. One where I use the plus, see what I get, and one where I use the minus and see what I get. So I'll split this way since I'm kind of stuck for space. So I'll have like -3 plus 2 and -3 minus 2.
Okay.
And so what happens is if you have a really nice square root, you're going to get actual numbers for answers. If you don't have a nice square root, then we just kind of leave that as best we can. Cool?
Yeah.
Cool.
And I've got some classwork for other classes I have to do, so I'll get this to you by midnight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got the time to get that done. So whatever works for you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too, Gavin.
Hey, Rosie.
Yeah.
I had a quick question on number 5. Can we go over number 5? Because I'm confused.
Sure. All right. All right, so x squared minus x squared minus 4x minus 1. Okay, so A is 1, B is -4, and C is -1. Let's kind of keep track of those negatives. All right, so it's x equals negative b on top of the first fraction. So it just means switch the sign, but keep the number otherwise the same. So +4 over 2 times a, so that's 2 times 1. Plus or minus big square root on top. B, so -4 in parentheses squared, minus 4 times a times c. So -4 times 1 times -1, with the 1 and the -1 in parentheses. And then on the bottom of the second fraction, the same thing as the first one, 2 times 1. You good to there? Okay. Now I just deal with each part separately, right? 4 is good on top. Bottom of that first fraction, 2 times 1, so that's 2. Plus or minus. And then my square root, I don't have to make it real big because I'm going to plug all of that stuff in the calculator all in one shot. See what I get. -4 in parentheses squared, -4 times 1 times -1. You type that into your calculator, you'll get 20. Kind of like what happened. Did I do that right? Yeah, kind of like what happened with the first one because it was the same a and c value. So, so we're good there. And then bottom of that fraction, 2 times 1, so also 2. And then the only thing I'm going to check right now is the square root of 20. I want to see if that's nice, because if it's nice, then I'll just change that part. If it's not nice, then for today, we'll just leave it. Tomorrow, I'll show you what we can do to maybe make it simpler. So I just jump in my calculator and I type in the square root of 20, and I see what I get. So I type that in. I get some long string of decimals, right? 4 point, blah, 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 whatever it is. And so there's nothing I can do right now with the square root of 20. I'm just going to leave it just like that. But 4 over 2, I can at least do something with that, right? Because that fraction is 2. So I can call that 2. But the second fraction, there's nothing I can do. It's just the square root of 20 over 2. And if you've got that square root still left over, then that's the best version of that answer. There's nothing we can do to make that any better today. And there you go. 3 steps.
All right, yep, I got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethan.